There's no way that I should be able to look at myself like this and be alive. The immediate thought that came to my mind was, this could be it, this could be the end. I truly thought I was gonna die that day.
Sometimes, a simple mistake can be devastating. And a split second means the difference between life and death. 3 survivors share their stories of a day they almost died. Diesel mechanic Bruce Van Natta used to look forward to November, the month when work tapers off.
In November of 2006, I owned my own business where I traveled around the state of Wisconsin doing on-site repair of diesel engines.
Inside the central Wisconsin repair shop, Bruce is wrapping up a 3-day job on a semi-truck.
He really enjoyed fixing trucks that other people couldn't fix, and he knew he was the guy who could get it done. He worked a lot of long hours.
With a 12-hour workday already under his belt, Bruce's mind is on his weekend plans.
We had a lot of snow that year, exceptionally cold. It was Thursday, it was the day before rifle season for deer hunting. That started on Saturday, and so that's kind of what was going on in my mind. I just finished up my repair and was wiping my tools off.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
But the owner of the truck has one last request.
The man I was working with asked me if I would look at a dirty spot he had on the engine, and he just wanted me to diagnose where it was seeping oil.
It'll just take a sec.
I remember looking at the clock. At that point, it was 6:10 p.m. So in my mind, it had already been a 12-hour day. I had a 1-hour ride home, and I was thinking, I'm just gonna be there for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I can take a look at it. Do you know what's going on?
There's a dark spot on the bottom of the engine.
I don't see anything from here, so I'm probably gonna have to get under. And yeah, I'll just give it a quick look.
Thanks, appreciate it.
For the last time that day, Bruce crawls under the 12,000-pound vehicle.
I went underneath the front bumper feet first, feet going towards the back of the truck.
Oh, I think I see it. So, I definitely think there's a little bit of an oil leak. And I think it has to do with the temperature gauge. Can you jump?
Bruce asks the owner of the truck to jump inside the cab to check the temperature gauge.
When he got in the truck kind of shifted, and I saw movement in the peripheral vision of my left eye. And I turned my head just in time to see the jack rock, wiggle, and fly out like a rocket.
The axle crushes Bruce's midsection.
Blood literally shot up from the inside of my body into my mouth and blopped out onto the floor. I heard a liquidy sound inside of me as everything was getting crushed. I looked down at the left side of my body. There was about an inch of airspace between the bottom of the axle and the cement. So I knew that my body was only about an inch thick.
Oh my God!
So when the man I was working with had gotten out of the truck and he'd taken that first look at me, I saw the shock that was in his eyes. And so I was begging him to call 911.
Call 911! Dan, call 911.
Okay, hang on.
My very first instinct was that I wanted it off, and I was gonna just try to bench press the truck off of me without even thinking. And as soon as I started to push, then it was a reality check, and I realized, I know it's impossible for me to bench press a semi-truck. The immediate thought that came to my mind was, this could be it, this could be the end.
Bruce begs the owner of the truck to lift the 12,000 pounds of steel off his body.
Get this off of me.
How?
The truck. Just get the jack.
Jack, okay, the jack.
And he's frantically looking to find a place to jack it up.
Please.
It's just not gonna work.
Just try anywhere.
He finally finds a place to get the jack under the chassis.
It's lifting.
In desperation, I reached back behind my head, and I dragged myself out this far, like doing a pull-up, but on my back. And I looked down at myself, and my work uniform went to the edge of my ribs, and then went down, went flat towards my spine. It was very surreal that it looked like something out of a cartoon. And the very next thought that came was, there's no way that I should be able to look at myself like this and be alive. This should kill me.
Hang on, all right?
Firefighters finally arrive at the grisly scene.
Come on, Bruce, don't you die on me.
And it was about that point where I lost my pulse. And all of a sudden, my spirit left my body, and I went up into the roof of the garage. And I just watched from above at that point.
Don't die on me.
Not only was there a lack of fear or lack of pain as I watched from above, but I had this amazing sense of peace. I heard two guys from the volunteer fire department over here saying that it was too late, that man had passed.
Sorry, he's not breathing.
The two firefighters have lost all hope. But when the paramedic arrives, she makes a final attempt to resuscitate Bruce.
I'm not going anywhere until you start talking to me, hon. Come on. Sir, what's his name?
Bruce.
Come on, Bruce? Bruce is his name? Bruce, you hear me?
So she began to pat my face and say, "Bruce, Vanna, open your eyes."
We hear you? Come on, Bruce.
All of a sudden, my spirit back into my body. My eyes opened. My heart started at that point again.
Not giving up on me.
When I opened my eyes, she looked at me and she said, "Mister, you're on the verge of life and death.
Life or death?
You're gonna have to fight."
Not going anywhere. You want to fight? You got something to live for? Come on.
Then she said something that was very key. She said, "What do you have to fight for? Do you have a wife? Do you have children?" And up until that exact second, I had totally forgot that I was married. I totally forgot that I had 4 small children. And it was like a wake up to me that I had a reason to live, that I had something to fight for. And then she said, "Keep your eyes open. Do not shut your eyes. No matter what, don't shut your eyes."
Bruce is rushed to the ambulance, but the hospital is an hour away. His injuries are so severe that if he loses consciousness again, he may never wake up. Coming up.
His blood pressure suddenly dropped.
He's crashing.
And later.
I think that it happens so quickly.
Oh my God!
Help!
I thought I was gonna die right there on the ground.
Diesel mechanic Bruce Van Natta is in critical condition after the semi-truck he was working on fell off its jack, pinning him to the ground and pulverizing his insides. He's now on his way to the University of Wisconsin Hospital in Madison, where Dr. Fumito Ito and a team of trauma surgeons are standing by.
Trauma, possible internal bleeding.
Okay, who we have?
I call everybody in the ER or ICU to get prepared because we thought, this would be a really tough case.
By the time Bruce arrives, 1.5 hours have passed since the accident. Amazingly, he's awake and able to talk.
My first impression wasn't too bad. His blood pressure was normal. He was awake and talking.
He's crashing. He's crashing.
Suddenly, Bruce takes a turn for the worse.
All the bells and whistles were going off. Everything began to get dark, and I realized that I was dying.
His blood pressure suddenly dropped. We thought he was dying, so we needed to take him to the OR.
For the second time that day, Bruce feels his spirit leaving his body. When Dr. Ito opens up Bruce's abdomen, he finds a horrifying mess of splintered bone and unrecognizable organs.
Based on what we saw in a CT scan, we expected that he had intra-abdominal trauma causing some bleeding. But when we opened his abdomen, it was beyond what we expected. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was 10.
Severed arteries, a fractured spinal column, broken ribs, and disconnected organs sit in a massive pool of blood. After cinching the severed arteries, doctors turn their attention to the organ with the most damage, his small intestine.
Most of the small intestines looked black, which means they were dead. And some of the small intestines were dusky, which means a little reddish or brownish, which means they were dying. We did damage control surgery.
Doctors must save at least 100 centimeters of intestine for Bruce to live through the surgery.
This number is very critical, so that if it's less than 100, we don't actually do the surgery.
At the end of the grueling 2.5-hour surgery, doctors have managed to save exactly 100 centimeters of intestines. But Bruce is still barely clinging to life. Bruce's wife, Lori, is at the hospital, waiting for news.
We probably were sitting there for an hour to 2 hours. 3 doctors came out. He just said that he had been severely crushed and that they hooked up the main arteries and some of the veins, and they were just gonna wait and see if he was gonna last through the night before they did any more surgeries.
Bruce miraculously makes it through the night, and for the next week, doctors keep Bruce in a medically induced coma and continue to operate on him, slowly piecing together his internal organs.
After they take me out of the induced coma, there were several days where I didn't know if I was going to live or not.
Bruce spends most of the next 6 months in the hospital, teetering between life and death. With only 100 centimeters of small intestine, he can't eat normally and must get all his nutrition from a feeding tube. His body is wasting away from malnutrition.
I was losing weight. At the scene of the accident, I was 185 to 190 pounds. By February of 2007, I was down to 124 pounds. And doctors expected me to continue to lose weight until I starved to death.
He was in so much pain, and it just, no matter what they did, nothing helped.
Seven months after the accident, Bruce stops losing weight.
Bruce, how you feeling?
The same.
We found that he was gaining some weight, and first we thought he was accumulating fluid in his abdomen.
Doctors order x-rays to figure out what's going on internally.
So based on the x-ray, we found that he has at least 200 centimeters of small intestines. It was unbelievable.
This is amazing.
We thought the x-ray was somebody else.
200 centimeters is almost half the length of a healthy small intestine and over twice what Bruce was left with after the accident.
I've never heard of the small intestines growing back. We don't have scientific explanation for the small intestine to regenerate. I cannot explain it.
Today, Bruce is a healthy 170 pounds. His grisly scars serve as a reminder of how close he came to death.
There's no medical reason, no natural reason why I should have ever lived, why I should have ever made it to the hospital in the first place. Basically, I know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life talking to people about this, telling people that there is a spiritual reality to life. I feel like I've been given a second chance.